Some snow, mostly over hills, but even to low levels, there could well be a covering over parts of the Midlands and southern England as we start Thursday. Quite a bit of uncertainty about that, but stay up to date with the forecast. As I say, you could wake up to a covering of snow across parts of the Midlands, southern England on Thursday morning. Still some wet weather here during the rush hour as well, taking a while before it clears away. A few wintry showers then across the east, a mixture of sleet, hail and some snow. Sunny spells further west during Thursday, but look at the numbers, single figures across the board and feeling a lot colder, particularly with that wind coming in from the North Sea.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
Basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. I'm Dominic Frisby, and with me tonight, looking at tomorrow's papers, we have Josh Howie and Simon Fanshawe. But before they utter their two-penneth, we go to the news, which tonight is read to you by Polly Middlehurst.
Good evening. The top stories this hour. The Queen and other senior members of the royal family have been paying tribute to the late Prince Philip at a special memorial service in London. Her Majesty was accompanied by her son Prince Andrew, who walked with her through Westminster Abbey. The service of thanksgiving featured elements the Duke of Edinburgh had planned himself for his funeral, but which hadn't been used because of coronavirus restrictions. In other news today, the Ukrainian president says the talks with Russian officials could be called positive, but it doesn't drown out the sound of their forces shelling his country's cities. In an address, President Zelensky also expressed caution about Russia cutting military action in Kiev and Chernihiv. Negotiations in Turkey between Russian and Ukrainian officials had sparked hopes of progress towards ending the war. But Mr. Zelensky said the situation has not become easier.
Of course we see all the risks. Of course we see no reason to trust the words of certain representatives of the states that continues to fight for our destruction. Ukrainians are not naive people. Ukrainians have already learned, both during these 34 days of invasion and over the past 8 years of war in Donbass, that only a concrete result can be trusted.
President Zelensky of Ukraine. Several European countries, including Belgium, the Netherlands and Ireland, have expelled dozens of Russian diplomats today. Ireland's asked 4 Russian officials and Belgium has asked 21 to leave their countries for not upholding standards of diplomatic behaviour and for alleged spying. Russia responded, issuing a statement against the unfriendly actions, promising retaliation. The Israeli ambulance service says at least 5 people have been killed in a shooting on the outskirts of Tel Aviv. Reports say the gunman has been killed after first opening fire towards apartment balconies, then at people on a main street in the suburb of Bnei Brak. It's the latest in a string of attacks raising security concerns in Israel. Here, Downing Street has rejected P&O Ferries' claim that sacking 800 staff was necessary to protect the company. In a letter to the Transport Secretary, the chief executive said complying with the government's request to rehire the fired workers would cause the company's collapse. Peter Hebblethwaite told MSPs the minimum wage would be paid to workers if the law were changed. And Downing Street has insisted the Prime Minister didn't mislead Parliament when he told MPs no lockdown rules had been breached, despite a police investigation finding the law had been broken. 20 fixed penalties are set to be issued for parties which were held during lockdown in Downing Street. The Metropolitan Police say they'll be referred to the Acro Criminal Office, which will be responsible for handing out the fines. A dozen events were investigated, and the Prime Minister is thought to have attended as many as 6 of those. Scotland Yard says there could be more referrals in the future. On TV, online and on your radio via DAB+, you're with GB News. Now time for Headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. I'm Dominic Frisby, and joining me tonight, making his Headliners debut, is former Perrier Award winner and co-founder of Stonewall, though since 2015 he's been very critical, Simon Fanshawe, OBE, who is on a mission to plug his new book. So this is your chance, Simon, plug away.
Well, I wrote a book called The Power of Difference. The thing that I like about it is that it really is a kind of staunch defence of could we please talk, could we please have opposing views, could we please not have to agree with everything about everybody. So it's a book for work, but it's a book for life, I hope.
Very good. Well, you must all buy it, dear viewers. And on to our next guest, whose CV is nothing like as illustrious. Hello, Josh, how are you doing?
I've got lots of Tesco club points. Does that count? Does that count in any way?
I've got a 4.79 Uber rating.
I've got so many cards in my wallet now. I think it's stretching loyalty to an unconceivable point.
Oh.
You know, I'm loyal to Costa and sorry, I can't mention all these names.
You can mention them. Yeah, you can mention. Anyway.
You can mention them.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to see that loyalty is to be found in this country in the deepest, darkest nooks. Right, let's take a look at tomorrow's front pages, and we start with the Daily Mail, as is so often the case, which has a picture of Prince Andrew escorting the Queen, along with the title, Royals Dismay at Andrew Role in Philip's Service. And insiders tell Mail of strong sense of regret after shamed Duke put himself front and centre as World Watch. We'll be looking at that story in a moment. On to the Daily Telegraph, which has Russians give up on conquest of Kyiv. That's the peace talks. We'll be looking at those as well. A picture of the Queen. And Met hiding behind rules by not identifying Partygate offenders. This is the return of the Partygate story. We'll be looking at that. On to the Independent, which has Russia pledges to reduce attacks around Kyiv, and also the Nazis killed their families. Now Odessa's Holocaust survivors fear that Putin will do the same. On to The Guardian, law breaking in number 10. No surprise The Guardian's focusing on that. Police issue first 20 Partygate fines. There's also a picture of the Queen and Prince Andrew. at the Prince Philip Memorial Service, and suspicion as Russia vows to rein in its forces. Suspicion indeed. On to the FT. Russia and EU in standoff as Putin digs in on ruble payments for gas. He's not backing down on that, and I'm not surprised. And there's also checks on EU imports set for fourth delay amid supply chain collapse fears. I thought the supply chains had already collapsed, but there we go. On to the Mirror. We have the Queen, the pain and the stain. I presume the stain. Queen tears for Philip as Andrew worms his way back into limelight. On to the Times. Russians promise to ease Kyiv onslaught, and secrecy for number 10 staff given COVID party fines. That's what everyone wants to know. Who's been given the fine? On to the Sun. Tearful monarch at Duke Memorial, the Queen of Broken Hearts. And finally, we have the Daily Star. And what is the Daily Star going to go with? Step away from the hobnobs, Roman. Poisoned Chelsea boss at Ukraine peace talks, but he's warned to give food and drink a wide berth. Roman Abramovich, that known consumer of hobnobs. Those are the headlines. And so to our first story from pretty much every paper. A lot of people have got their knickers in a twist, perhaps that's putting it mildly, because Prince Andrew not only attended his father's memorial, he escorted the Queen up the aisle. Simon, what are your views on this one?
You'd think they'd lock him away in the woodshed at the bottom of the garden, really, wouldn't you?
Yes.
I mean, I know he hasn't been convicted of anything, but you don't go around paying millions of quid, do you, to somebody just because actually you didn't do anything. The thing that I think is peculiar, though, and in a funny, contrary way, slightly admirable, is she doesn't stop defending or being with him or supporting him. So, you know that thing, it's the errant son. It's that very, and it's in a sense, you could see it in a very converse way as being actually an astonishing tribute of kind of maternal love, like defending her pup. Because he is just awful. I mean, in every sense. He's been involved, hasn't he, in financial scandal after financial scandal, or at least ways of getting money to pay off this debt and that debt. And yet she sticks with him. And I find that perversely admirable. And I don't know why she might do it. I once interviewed years ago, this is a long way off him, but on a talk show I used to do on a radio station. And a woman whose son was a murderer rang up. And at the end of it, I said to her, do you love him? She went, of course I do, I'm his mother. And actually, it was a terribly moving moment. So I find these stories kind of weird because he's clearly awful.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, the papers are presenting this, Josh, as him worming his way back.
No one wormed your way around the Queen. I don't believe that.
Yeah, I mean, everything the royal family does when it's public is carefully scripted. Yeah. And I guess she's thought it's his dad.
Well, I was just thinking about my mum. She won't even lend me her Netflix passwords. So, I don't know if she'd defend me. But yeah,
I'm trying to get my mum.
You want to do something a lot worse.
I know, yeah, exactly. But I didn't know.
Mums, what do they call those things that give you free freedom pass? I'm trying to get
yeah. So I didn't know there was there's the managing editor, Joe Little, of Majesty magazine. I don't know if anybody knew but reads Majesty magazine out there. So that Andrew's accompaniment of the Queen may have been a matter of practicality. And thinking about it, it may well be because, you know, he was helping her like walk. Obviously, famously, he doesn't sweat. So it could be quite strenuous, and then he's not going to be slipping off. You know, so there could be
She's not going to fall out of his hand, is she?
Yeah, it's not, you know, so there could be medical reasons really why she needed him in particular.
This is why we have this programme, because we discover insights that the other papers aren't covering.
But the other thing too, which is if you think of what happened to him too, that, you know, when he did the thing and was going to go to court, and she went, right, you're going to have to do it on your own, and as a punishment, I am going to take away your titles, and you're not going to have to go to another public event
and meet those horrible people.
And you think, yippee! Yeah. You know, I'll skip around the garden naked and do whatever.
Right, the Telegraph is next, and Josh, some promising developments in Ukraine.
Yeah, so, I mean, this is the thing. Whenever Russia says anything, you just have to take it with a massive pinch of salt. They vowed to radically reduce their military activity in northern Ukraine because the peace talks are supposedly going okay. So this is what they're saying is we're going to reduce our military activity there. But the reality is, number one, it wasn't going great there anyway, and they're facing a lot of pushback, and the Ukrainians are taking back a lot of towns around Kyiv. Number two, that's not really the part they wanted. The only reason they were really going there was to sort of surround Kyiv, get rid of the government and impose their own government, and then but really what they want is the south and the other side of the country. And finally, they just...
East.
Yeah, the east.
I could see you doing it, and I thought...
Never eat soggy Weetabix. And
the right-hand side.
The right-hand side of the country. And finally, they could just be lying. And this is just what they're doing, and now they're going to do a massive assault tomorrow. So you just don't know with them.
You think it's like those wrestlers when they lie on the ground for a long time just to get their breath back? It's sort of one of those tactics.
Yeah, they've got their 9 seconds.
Yeah,
right there.
you know. I tell you the thing that I found really difficult all the way through this is emotionally you think, come on, NATO, get together, go and bomb them, and that'll do. And then you think, well, hang on a second, no. Be sensible, because actually what's interesting, I think, about this is that it will probably end up in some kind of negotiated settlement, which is kind of weird. You know, and you look at the two positions. I always think this is extraordinary about negotiations. At the moment, they're absolutely, we want the East, and, you know, it's part of Russia. And then Zelensky's saying, absolutely, we want to maintain our territorial integrity. And you think, well, because presumably what will happen, being cynical, is that they'll get a bit of the East, and then there'll be a bit of a fight over Crimea, and then, you know, the rest of Ukraine will stay as an independent country, and then they'll get some kind of guarantee from external forces about territorial sovereignty. I mean, what will happen?
I guess that's the most likely compromise, and I guess it sort of works, although the fact is he will have invaded another country and then taken a bit of it,
yes,
which is wrong.
But I mean, and also this thing of Erdogan, you know, the Turkish president, you know, not the world's most conciliatory figure, is apparently hosting the peace talks. This is like sending Prince Andrew to a girls' school to be head of safeguarding.
Well,
job,
you never know. When I got divorced, we had one of my ex-wife's friends. We had one of our ex-wife's friends, most notorious philanderers, negotiate the settlement between me and my ex-wife, and he was wonderful. So maybe Erdogan is the ideal man to do the peace.
Oh, it's the fraudster turned accountant.
Maybe, that kind of thing. Or the criminal turned policeman. Anyway, obviously the only reason that Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine was to divert attention away from Boris Johnson and Partygate. And now that peace talks are progressing, Partygate is back. This is from the front page of Wednesday's Guardian. Simon, you've got this one? Have you got this one?
I have got this one.
Good. You had a blank look on your face.
No. What I was actually thinking was, I was thinking back to all those days ago in the 80s when, you know, the Falklands War, and you thought, at least Thatcher used her own war in order to win an election. He's using somebody else's war. That doesn't seem fair, does it, really? Look, but here's the thing. I have been repeatedly assured that no rules were broken. There was no party and no COVID rules were broken. He said it in Parliament, Johnson. So if he said it in Parliament, he either knowingly misled Parliament or the people who brief him knowingly misled him. Either way, he's either a liar or he's incompetent and can't run number 10. I mean, this is just appalling. And, of course, this whole thing of the 20 who've been given the fines at the moment, no one's senior, we understand. And it was that great Dennis Skinner line, wasn't it? When the upper classes do something wrong, they sack the servants.
Although the investigation is still ongoing, and this was the sort of the low-hanging fruit. But it is quite unnerving that
I don't like you referring to me like that. Thank you very much.
Sorry, yeah. But the thing is, the fact they can't name people legally is like, so he could later on get a fine, and unless it's leaked, we're not going to actually know about it. Absolutely. But I didn't realise. I mean, look, I knew obviously we've been talking about this Partygate for a long time on the show, but there are 12 events that they're investigating from 2020-21, and Johnson was said to have attended 6 of them. I mean, when you look at it just proportionately, surely there's something coming down.
Well, also that one in the garden. They're sitting in the garden around a table. She's got the baby there. I mean, I know there's this thing, bring your child to work, but seriously, that was a work meeting? I think not.
Yeah. On we go, and on to the Daily Mail. And Simon, your yachts are no longer safe.
They're not. Grrr, goes Grant. I love Grant Shapps. He's like, we will take the strongest possible action. And what they've done is they've taken this bloke's toy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, next time they're going to come for his teddy bears, really. This thing is enormous, though, I have to say. It's 64 yards. I have to put it in yards because I didn't understand 190.
Well, you're a GBNews, so that's good.
But I mean, I didn't understand the feet.
It's an organic form of
64 yards it is long, and it's the biggest, whatever. But what I love about it was, why was it in London? It was here for a super yacht awards ceremony, What goes on there? I'm bigger than you, so I get the biggest yacht of the year, and then you get supporting yacht of the year, and then presumably you get, the distaff yacht.
I didn't say if it won or not.
It didn't say. No, well, I don't think ceremonies happen.
I think it's been seized before the awards.
I think it has.
That's a terrible loss. Whoever comes in first now won't feel like they deserve it.
They won't, will they? They've been cheated out of it. But I do just think this is the most appalling virtue signalling. I mean, Grant Shapps going, I
know, it was like we're going to fight them on the beaches as we take. It was pathetic, wasn't it?
And actually what we've done is taken a boat.
Yeah, the strongest possible action against those seeking to benefit from. It's like, come on, mate. But I did like at the beginning of the story that the Mail says that it's been seized in East London. And I sort of missed it. I was like, this is the best mugging ever.
The one I loved was they've got an infinite wine cellar.
Yeah.
And then they've got a freshwater swimming pool. I thought you had infinite swimming pools.
Is
that just a typo?
And what is an infinite wine cellar?
It's like Mary Poppins' bag. It doesn't matter how much wine you take out, there's always more.
As Mr. Oligarch's business manager, what concerns me here is the running costs of maintaining a boat are tremendous. And if his yacht has been seized, who is responsible for the running costs and the mooring costs?
And therefore, who will suffer for them not being paid?
You and me.
Can I just say, too,
if I paid taxes, I would be suffering.
The other thing, too, it's worth saying...
That's only because I don't earn any money, I should point that out.
But also, they can't find out. The other thing is they can't find out who owns this thing. And I love it because it's registered in... I can't see this now.
Malta, I think.
It's registered in Malta, but it was built in the Netherlands, and then it flies the flag of, Moldova or somewhere. But they can't find out who owns it.
Yeah.
We are not going to find out today. The Mirror is next, and the world's least popular, but perhaps least inclined to pander, CEO is standing firm, John.
Yes, Peter Hebblethwaite. Peter Hebblethwaite. He's refusing to hire back the 800 people who were fired. He's been sort of taken up in front of MPs. And he says that if he did, basically the company would collapse. But it's owned, of course, by a larger consortium, which I believe is a Dubai company, that are spending their money frivolously on golf competitions and whatever. They have money, and they're saying it made 100 million loss. Yeah, during COVID, and obviously now with Brexit, things are not looking as great for it, but it was making a profit, actually, before when they first took it over. And it's just like there's so many half-lies in this from Mr. Peter Hebblethwaite. And he says that he knows that the company and his personal image may suffer.
But
Mr.
Josh,
Hebblethwaite.
just because it's owned by a bigger company, the company's not responsible for bailing out. It's an entity within itself. So,
but they did.
Money.
They can get
his CEO. His job is to turn it round, and if he feels that the only way he can do it is by letting these staff go.
Yeah,
I don't agree with the way
they had
it's
money
done it.
during furlough. They were happy to take the money at that point, also, now they're saying it's going to be
slightly different. But
well, I'm just saying they took money from the government at that point, and now now furlough's over, and now they're going, all right, we're going to fire these people. They're saying the average wage of the new people who are being hired is £5.50, which means I actually read it was about £3, but of course some of the people are going to be getting a fair bit more. So £3 just to hire, it's horrible.
But also, too, this guy said that, the firm would not U-turn. And then Grant Shapps has suddenly turned out to be the great defender.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a Tory U-turn if ever I were. They love sacking people.
Also, we have some yachts now, so maybe we could put those.
Well, I was thinking, could
play.
Some of the 800 not work on that Oligarch's yacht?
There we go.
Connecting the dots here on GB News.
I think you'll find it's connecting the yachts. Oh, she pun.
And this next story, I'm just going to read the headline and the opening sentence of this piece. Genitalia questions debase trans debate, says Angela Rayner. It is unacceptable to ask a woman if she has a penis. Now, presumably, Simon, similar debates were being held shortly before the fall of Rome. What do you make of all of this?
What I find really disappointing about this is that this is in need of a proper discussion. Back to why I wrote the book. It's in need of a proper discussion. And the way I always approach it is this. There is a legal situation, there is a biological situation, and there is a social situation. Biology is immutable. I mean, there are two sexes, male and female. Some people experience extreme pain in relation to being one of them and make a choice. And we have a piece of legislation passed in 2004, which was called the Gender Recognition Act. And what it does is it creates a legal fiction which enables somebody to be treated legally as if they were the opposite sex. So on one level, yes, in law, it is possible for a woman to have a penis. It's not the right question, but I don't trust Angela Rayner's reason for raising this, because socially, if you meet people who have transitioned or are saying that they wish to live as the opposite sex, then as far as I'm concerned, I'm reasonably happy to just dignify that. Why wouldn't I? I mean, you know, I've got friends and you tell a story about them or you talk to them or you refer to them, I would refer to them as she. So I want to make the distinction between the biology, between law and policy, and between the social acceptance. The problem with allowing the idea of self-identification, because that's the problem is extending the scope of this legal fiction. And what happens then is that people start to be able to go into spaces which are, for very specific reasons, designated for single-sex occupancy. The classic ones are the NHS ward or the Women's Refuge. And Women's Aid put out a brilliant thing the other day where they said, look, we're a federation. We've got a bunch of organisations. They all determine how they're going to deliver their services, but we are established in the interests of the victim. And if the victim needs a single-sex space, then that's what those people should provide. And if the victim is happy and safe in a space which has got trans women in it as well as women in it, well, then that's also possible. In other words, there is room for a way through this. But what is happening at the moment is it's being weaponised. And Labour is making a really foolish mistake because they should be able to recognise the difference between biology and law and social circumstances. And they can't just say what I've said, which I think is a reasonable way forward for a solution and a discussion.
Very well put, sir. Josh, what do you make of all that?
Well, I could not disagree with Simon more. No, I'm joking. I agree with every word he said. Great. Well done, mate. Okay. Got that one.
Well, but it is so vexing.
Yeah, oh, no, it's so... But specifically this story about Angela Rayner is when she says she wants this gender identity discussion to be taken off social media. Social media basically saved the day. Yes, there's been a huge amount of death threats and rape threats towards those people who have raised these questions about fairness and women's spaces, but that has got other people involved, and this stuff that was creeping in that people weren't aware about coming through, unfortunately, by Stonewall over the last 5 to 10 years has now been somewhat halted. At least people are aware of it and people are arguing back, and now we are talking about it.
And it is worth remembering that the way in which, as you kindly pointed out, was one of the, originators of Stonewall. The two key things about how Stonewall made progress was that when we've always made progress, since back to the Wolfenden Report in 1957, right the way through to gay marriage and whatever, actually, the whole point about making progress on homosexuality is it's never made by talking about homosexuality, because that's not the point. The point is equality. It's a group of people who are being discriminated against simply on the basis of who they are. So you can make an alliance with other people who understand that, who don't necessarily approve of homosexuality, because they understand the principle of equality under the law. So talk to people who don't agree with you and find the common way through. Don't, like Angela Rayner's doing, side with people in a ludicrous way.
Well, on a very sort of anecdotal level, on Friday, this thing came out that about someone crying because they'd been talking about the stuff, and they were talking about the swimmer in America, and I just said everyone was very supportive of the swimmer. I said, well, she does have biological advantage. She went from male puberty. I got swamped on, 6 people just abusing me, 24 hours, people making memes about me. I mean, that's the toxicity. Just for me going, there's biological differences that we need to look at. The abuse stuff.
I was asked to do a sixth form talk. Just one last thing is that do a sixth form talk the other day, and a really intelligent, lovely girl was put her forward, her kind of anxieties and whatever about it, and she said, I don't want to exclude trans people. And she was coming from a kind of I want to be kind position. I was going, that's absolutely fine. It's also worth thinking, though, about the women who are excluded. So there's trans people are excluded, but there are women excluded. That's the point about the balance.
Great stuff. Well, that is it for part 1. Part 2 is coming up in just a moment. Adverts first. Consume, buy to fill the void in your souls. And to tempt you back, we have more on the Will Smith debacle, robot dogs, and why Britain can't have a Disney World. That's all in part 2.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate.
From all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
Make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel.
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
That you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
It's basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm your host, Dominic Frisby, and with me tonight, I'm delighted to welcome, making his Headliners debut, Simon Fanshawe, and we have a man who I'm rather less excited about, Josh Howie.
Can I just say, I'm very excited because I've not met him before, so
he's
you
good.
know,
He's quality.
I have met you before.
He's in his category.
Yes. Yeah.
At the level he's offered. Right, the Times is next, and Simon, Will Smith has issued an unreserved apology for the slap, and we learned... Yeah. For the
Oscars slap, it says. Will Smith says sorry to Chris Rock and the world. I just thought this was a really silly, over-emotional reaction. I was just annoyed by it. I just thought, you don't get up on stage and slap someone because they told a joke. And what really annoyed me, actually, was the sort of idea that somehow that was legitimate, that you can respond to a joke with a punch. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm fed up with the idea that, you know, language is not violence. So Chris Ross did language, and then Will Smith did violence. And it wasn't, you know, I thought Chris Ross was rather... Chris Rock was very dignified. I mean, he just, like, kind of took it.
He tried to smile and...
Yeah, and sort of... But then nothing happened.
Now with the best documentary.
I think to start with, everybody thought it was a bit of a setup, and then there was all the swearing and whatever. The thing that I don't understand is the standing ovation that Will Smith got when he got the Oscar, though, because that seemed to me to be, you know, this is the weaponisation of offence, which really annoys me, is the idea that, you know, you say something and people are offended by it, and that justifies then the reaction, which then gets sanctified. And that seemed to be very odd. And what was his name? Who's the Jimmy Carr? You know, of whose jokes I am very fond and not fond. And that awful joke he did about the gypsies. But he makes the perfectly reasonable point that a joke about rape is not rape. You know, and I don't think a joke about alopecia is actually causing somebody to have alopecia. It wasn't a very good joke.
I personally think it was misjudged, but from what I gather, Chris Rock had no idea she had alopecia. It was a simple... It's like me going, you could play G.I. Jane because you've got...
Oh, thanks very... what are you asking for it now?
Well, this is the thing.
Get our viewing figures up.
There was actually there was a very funny tweet. Someone said that alopecia for 24 hours is now the greatest victimhood, more than trans, or something like that in America. But this is the thing is, I saw a photo, so someone sent me a photo of her alopecia. It's literally like a tiny line. And I'm not saying that...
Really?
Like, I am traumatised from going bald, absolutely, so I get it. But, you know, she shaved her head. She still got pretty much 99% of her hair. And, yeah, it's like he didn't know it was a joke.
Well, let's move on to some of the insane commentary that we've had on this subject. And, This is, we learn from The Guardian, that in all the arguments that have gone on, the backlash against Will Smith. And by the way, I'm of the view that he should be banned from the Oscars for at least 5 or 10 years because you just can't walk on stage and slap somebody. Yeah. Anyway, that's
also now he's
just a breach of etiquette. It's a breach of
he should have his royal titles taken away and make no more visits.
Absolutely, and he can only escort 95-year-old ladies onto the podium to get their awards.
That would make him behave.
But anyway, apparently the backlash against Will Smith, according to The Guardian, is rooted in anti-blackness.
Yeah, I mean, well done, Guardian. You've done it. Good for you. You've come up with the best take of it all. Basically, by criticising Will Smith and saying that his violence was wrong, I'm racist now. So great. How wonderful. And it's like this is the problem with like critical race theory is it's actually like it's flipped it all. Whereas if you just can't criticise a human being for their behaviour, negative behaviour, without being accused of rape, like we should hold people of colour, of anybody, to a different standard. That's the racism. It's madness.
Well, I think there's both. I mean, the thing that I find annoying about this piece is that I understand, you hear story after story after story of the way in which black people and women are treated to the everyday gaze of men, of white people, of that persistent drip, drip, drip. And I get that. That is something that you understand. My husband's black, and so he's Nigerian, but I watch, and, I'm not going, I know how black people feel. I mean, I watch, the impact of racism when he sees it. And he's not very quick, by the way, to say that it's happening, but when it does, it does. My point being is that there is that.
It's a bit racist, what you said.
That is a voice, that is a set of experiences that are worth listening to. This trivialises that. This is a wealthy man at a worldwide, global event hitting another person because they made a joke about his wife that he didn't like.
Life cannot have been kinder to anyone but Will Smith. It's blessed him with good looks, it's blessed him with talent, the physique, it's blessed him with good luck, opportunities at the right time. I mean, he's one of the most privileged people in the world.
Yes, but this sort of comment by this person in The Guardian, I think really demeans and makes it more difficult, it seems to me, for people who do have something to talk about their everyday experience, which actually is oppressive in terms of race. It trivialises it, and actually it makes them more difficult because people laugh at it now because that makes it so ludicrous.
Yeah. Staying with The Guardian and Josh, missing phone records in the White House.
This is quite interesting. I know that quite a few fans of the show and GB News are big Trump fan. Hey guys, hey Trump fans out there. I am not.
And can I just say, me neither.
Me neither, OK.
Well, in the interest of
get ready for some nice tweets after the show.
You find him amusing and civilised, don't you?
I just like him. He makes me laugh.
Well, there is that.
There is a lot of comedians.
But so there are some, not just some phone logs. There's 7 hours and 37 minutes of phone logs missing during that day on the January 6th, where the violence unfolded in Washington. Now, what I find interesting is that conspiracy theorists, and some of those conspiracies turned out to be right, like, as we say, in terms of Hunter Biden's laptop, it turns out there's things there. Possibly what's happening in Wuhan, did that come from a lab? There are some things that have changed. But whether this thing that seems very much a conspiracy, will Trump people latch onto that because it makes their person not look good? There's got to be a reason why this phone stuff is missing. What I do like is he said a quote that he said, someone said, we're using a burner phone. And he said, I have no idea what a burner phone is. To the best of my knowledge, I have never heard of the term and I have never watched The Wire.
I told you it was funny. I said it.
He didn't say The Wire bit. I said The Wire.
Okay,
The Wire.
Well, then I've got to give you credit for being funny.
But the thing it reminded me too of was of course, the Watergate tapes had an 8.5 minute gap in that, which was, of course, Nixon. So obviously there's the parallel. But I looked it up because I remembered the gap and I thought, I wonder what that was. And there's this fantastic story where they obviously made this poor secretary try to explain that what she'd done is she had reached to the phone while she was transcribing the text, accidentally pressed the record button, but kept her foot on the thing that kept the tape running.
Wow.
And they made her reenact it for the Warren Commission or whatever. And honestly, she looks like olive oil out of Popeye.
It sounds like Twister.
It is exactly like Twister. You just think, poor woman.
Yeah.
OK, iNews is next. Gay author banned, governors sacked, strike action. What's all this about, Simon?
Teachers at John Fisher School being balloted for strike action after gay author banned and governors sacked. This is a guy called Simon James Green, who, as far as I can make out, writes kind of cute little children's books, you know, that have two boys who go on adventures and sort of feel kind of jolly about each other.
Kissing each other.
I don't know whether even if they kiss each other.
One's called Gay Club.
I think, is it?
Yeah.
Well, whatever.
But that's fine.
There's no
criticism. That's one of my favourite books, Gay Club.
Lovely book.
I'm just saying.
But the point is, get a tank off my lawn, love. All right. There's a warning here. There's a line down here. All right. But I mean, this is proper cancel culture. This is because the guy. It's for the fact that the stories were going. And what they said was, I love this. They said. And this, by the way, this is about the Catholic Church. It's a Catholic school, and the Archdiocese said the visit was potentially offensive to parents, past pupils, and wider members of the Catholic community, and had brought the school, the church, and all its historic legacy into disrepute. I would have thought it had gone some way towards rescuing it.
Right, exactly.
Because this guy only writes books for young boys.
I think we know what the rest is coming at. Yeah.
And the other thing I love about this is called the Archdiocese.
Oh, he's so odd.
But they don't realise how camp they are, do they, really? The Pope and the stuff, you know? They don't.
All that purple.
Right, part 2 is over. Come back to part 3 for we get all the weird stories. We've got a heartwarming story on dolphins and porpoises becoming best friends, a story on space hotels and the true throne of Henry III. We'll see you in a moment.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
From all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
Make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel.
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
That you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
Basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello and welcome back to Headliners. I'm Dominic Frisby, and with me tonight reviewing tomorrow's papers are Simon Fanshawe, OBE, and Josh Howie, Esquire. And so to our first story, which is from the Mirror, and rare jumping spiders, Josh, have scuppered the British Disneyland in Kent.
I know that everyone, anytime they build a park in the UK, like they always like, oh, it's going to be the British Disneyland. It ain't going to be the British Disneyland. That I can guarantee that. But yeah, so they found some, these jumping spiders. It's not just jumping spiders. There's yellow striped bear spiders, orange striped water beetles. Basically, I don't really want to hang out there anyway.
You don't like the creepy crawlies?
I do not like the creepy crawlies. This is the Swanscombe Peninsula, and it's now become
Swanscombe.
Sorry, Swanscombe people. And it's a site of special scientific interest, otherwise known as a SSSI. And Yeah, so they basically withdrawn their plans and they're going to resubmit them, and they're like, we've got £150 million to spend and we're going to spend it building this park.
Well, I mean, I dread to think how much they've already lost because of all of this. Any thoughts on the Swanscombe British Disneyland and protecting the environment and all that?
Personally, I would have thought, jumping spider would have been a bit of an addition to a British theme park.
But they probably jump like that far.
Well, I think you're being pessimistic.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No, I think I'd go for the jumping spider and the yellow bear striped spider and the orange striped water beetle. That would be my fun.
The Mirror is next, and the first ever hotel in space is set to open in 5 years. Travelodge. Do you know who's doing this? The hotel in space.
The Guardian of the Third. Yeah.
No, I'm not doing it. You're doing it.
Okay, fine. I'll do it then. They're going to open a hotel in space.
You see where it says Josh Mirror?
Oh my God, what is going on?
I mean, get the producer's sack.
This is going to be quite an interesting thing. I mean, it's going to cost obviously a lot of money. Very few people are actually going to get a chance to do it. But I mean, would you? But what's funny is this is again one of my favourite sort of genres of article where they've just cut and pasted the press release into the article. So there are whole ways of it just written. They keep on going about how it's amazing because you could just do everything that you can't do on Earth. And they just repeat that about 5 times. And then eventually they say, yeah, you can run and jump just like you can't on Earth. That sounds like a very expensive holiday.
But they've named it after Werner von Braun, a famous Nazi.
Oh, wow.
I mean, that was Tom Lehrer wrote a famous song about, and he was part of the nuclear project.
Oh, yeah, he did the V-rockets.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, that's the Hitler Hotel or Goering Guest House or something.
Yeah, wow. I guess they're celebrating his contribution to space rather than his contribution to
Nazism.
And so to our next story, and this is from The Guardian's Nebraska correspondent. The schools with children who self-identify as cats.
Yeah, well, this is what's interesting about the story, you see. So Republican retracts false claim schools placing litter boxes for furry students. So here's the reason I think this is kind of a classic story, is that, so what happens is this guy decides that there are students self-identifying as cats. The schools have got, so far, they're putting litter boxes for the kids who now run around, apparently. He actually says also, he says barking and meowing. So he's kind of got a peculiar idea of cats to start with, because they don't bark by and large. Set that aside. But here's the point about it. So you've got a nutty right-wing Republican, a conservative Republican, beg its pardon, who repeated the false claim. But here's the thing. It's absurd enough, and yet people actually could believe it because there are such mad things going on at the moment. So you've got the mirror image, haven't you? I mean, the idea that people can self-identify as a cat is somehow taken seriously in the world where apparently you click your heels and, like Dorothy, you're in Kansas. You can be who you want to be, which is bonkers. You can't identify as a cat. I mean, that's just, you could pretend to be a cat. But you don't, but it's believable.
George Galloway might disagree with you.
But it's believable enough in these days of nonsense for this guy to believe it. But to be fair to him, Bruce Bostelman, he did apologise and withdraw it, but not before it had been seen on Twitter by 300,000 people.
The news is spread by that point. No. I will not have I will not have George Galloway mocked on my show.
What?
We love George Galloway.
We do not love George Galloway. There's nothing about George Galloway that's admirable.
Wow. So we go on to the Times, where former junior men's cycling record holder, now transitioned Emily Bridges, will take on Olympic winner Laura Kenny. Josh, this is yours, and you're going to have a field day with it, I think.
What do you like about George Galloway? We'll talk about it after. Oh, my God. OK, I'm trying not to let my head explode here. Let's get on with this stuff. Yes, this is now the sports story where someone who is trans is now basically invading women's sports. This time it's cycling. And this person, Laura Kenny... Emily Bridges is now going to face an Olympic winner. Emily has been on hormones for a year, which have now reduced her testosterone, I believe, to below the level. That makes absolutely no difference to the fact that Emily has been through male puberty and thus has huge strength advantages and endurance advantages. Her record when she was competing as a man already was 2 minutes ahead of the world record. So for women, it's insane. And the fact...
Even more than that, the junior record that she had as a man was 2 minutes ahead of the most senior record for women.
Wow, it's great, and the thing is that the cycling, British Cycling Federation, or whatever they're called, this group of British cycling, have said that they're doing a wide-ranging consultation. They've conceded that further scientific research is required. So it's like, and loads of other reports have come out. I mean, it's crazy.
That's just blather from people who haven't got the cojones
yeah,
to stand
absolutely.
up to take a side.
Well, and what's his name, Ross Tucker, who oversaw the huge inquiry into rugby and decided that actually women would potentially be killed in a... I mean, he said, I don't run a contact sport. He said, I run a collision sport, which was a great phrase. But I think the point about this is that, it is framed at the moment in, trans people must be allowed to compete in sport. We must not exclude trans people from sport. And I absolutely think that's fine. Trans people must be able to compete in sport if that's what they want to do. The key thing is, how do we find a categorisation which means that actually people are competing equally? So if, for instance, you were in equestrian sport, it wouldn't be an issue. Men and women compete together in equestrian sport because actually the pubertal advantage, the muscular development isn't there. So it's yet again this failure to find a way through this when people would actually rather shout at each other and kind of virtue signal on either side and make a division than they would find some kind of dialogue.
And you must all buy Simon.
It's called The Power of Difference. It's available at £14 a penny, apparently, from all good bookshops.
Yeah, George Galloway's a big fan of it.
There you go. The Mirror, I'm not having those callbacks. Right, you're blocked, Josh Howie. The Mirror is next, and DNA tests on the NHS. It's what Ernest Bevin would have wanted.
Well, to be fair, that's what I thought to start with. I think, oh, really?
No, it's great.
It's interesting.
The future of medicine.
What it is it's apparently there are a whole bunch of medicines, painkillers, beta blockers, antidepressants, a whole bunch of other medicines, to which a significant number of people can have an adverse reaction. And so what they think they can do is, by mapping DNA for people, they can find out whether they're likely to have these kind of adverse reactions. The trouble with DNA, though, is I always think, well, because I come from a posh family. We used to own Dagenham. Do you know what I mean? I mean, people always say I'm middle class. I'm upper middle class, Josh. Yeah. But, I know perfectly well. I know perfectly well that if I took,
I concede that.
I know perfectly well if I took a DNA test, I would end up being the great of a peasant commune in Andalusia. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would completely devalue my posh currency. So I'm rather nervous about this. And then all the people in Islington and, the smart areas of York and Leeds will be running to the doctors to see if they're half Cherokee, etc. So I do think it can open to exploitation by people like myself.
Well, it's the future of tech. It's the way that tech is going to play a role in healthcare, because it's all to do with, like, monitoring. Everyone's using fitness watches and whatever, and putting their diet in, and with all these inputs and there's all sorts of apps. You can do blood tests at home and have the app read your blood tests and refer it to the clinic, and it reduces the burden on the hospital.
Fantastic.
And if you can, if you find you have a likelihood of getting Parkinson's, for example, in your DNA, because not everyone is prone to it, but maybe you're prone, then 20 years before the time you would get Parkinson's, you can start changing your lifestyle and your habits to reduce the chance of getting it. It's a huge
And as somebody who's
I don't know what you call it, health tech, I suppose.
Yeah, somebody who's voted Labour many times in my life. I wish that Angela Rayner would spend her time thinking about that and the future of healthcare, particularly in relation to for families and preventative healthcare, than worrying about whether we should ask women if they've got penises.
The Guardian now, and the BBC chair has suggested that maybe people don't want impartial news, Josh. Where does GBNews go?
Yeah, exactly. This article is about
You're treading
us.
a tightrope now, aren't you?
There's no impartiality here. So, yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing about the BBC, is it's meant to be impartial, but some of the knots that they tie themselves into to supposedly be impartial and present both points of view have been kind of insane over the last, so what, we have to have someone on that proves, arguing that the world isn't flat because we've got someone saying the world is flat or whatever. And the fact is that they do have bias, actually, in their reporting. They are being investigated right now BBC News by Ofcom for the way that they covered a story in December where they accused a bunch of young Jewish kids of being Islamophobic, and that's why they got attacked. That isn't anything of the cause, and they're being investigated. That is coming through those producers' bias. So there's no way that any news system is going to be able to avoid that totally. But it is quite comforting.
I think that social media is so effective at spreading information, often before it even makes it onto
spreading their misinformation.
Well, spreading disinformation. But you see, but there's also a lot of accurate stuff. I mean, you mentioned earlier in the show how social media had brought the whole trans thing to account, and you know, the war in Ukraine would be very different without all the videos and everything. You know, so it's a spread of misinformation, but it's also a spread of truth. But I think that is sort of exposing the shortcomings of TV.
Well, I know that what's happening. Sorry, but I'm just going to say the one thing I will say is that this show and this channel, the huge amount of criticism it receives, and certainly from papers like The Guardian. But the fact is that Sky, BBC are adopting some of the formats that have been on this channel because people want it. People want conversation. They want debate. And those channels weren't providing them.
I think there's got to be a mixed environment, that's the thing, in the end. And there's a place for lots of different kinds of news. But I do think that underneath this, and it is something that the BBC, I still think, for all its errors that it makes, because it's a huge organisation, it does make errors, but actually the notion of trust and trustworthy source. You know, I remember years ago when people were saying, oh, citizen journalism will take over and da-da-da. And for all its qualities, and, you know, you can see it in citizen reporting in the Ukraine as we speak, but for all its qualities, I still want to have two sources. I still want to know that somebody's checked whether something is true.
Yeah, but
back to the furries in Nebraska, you know. If that was a source that was checked with the people, and actually got a quote, and
You're right. Let's get rid of all the others and just keep BBC and GB News, and then we're all good.
The difference with GB News is GB News is accountable to its owners, whereas BBC is accountable to the licence payer. And specifically about news, time and time again, often it's not deliberate. It's just lazy reporting or some junior.
Oh no, I don't think that's the accountability of the BBC. I think in the end the BBC is accountable to itself and its charter.
But we're talking specifically about news.
No, but I still think there's an ethics in there. There's a set of ethics in there, a set of journalistic ethics. Of course they get broken. We're human beings, but the vast percentage of it is in some way. And I'm not saying it isn't true here either. It's a different. This is point of view news, whereas that's got a different. It's the national broadcaster. It's a different role in life.
They did point out Ross Atkins, and I've got to say, I do love his viral videos where he just explains everything in a couple of minutes. Those are amazing.
You know, when you watch Newsnight or something, if you want to see something explored, you know, you get it explored.
Oh, God, every time Newsnight covers a story that I know something about, I tear my hair out because it's awful. But anyway, the Metro is
Can I just say, you've got enough hair between on your head that we haven't got, that you clearly haven't torn it out very often.
Because I haven't been watching Newsnight, but there we go. The Metro
is Chris Rock over there.
The Metro is next, as I've said about 4 times. And in Scotland, a dolphin has been talking to porpoises, Simon, on the subject.
There's a wild dolphin in Scotland that has been talking to the harbour porpoises in the Clyde. And what I love about this idea is that I was brought up in Scotland, so on the other side of Scotland, on the east coast in Edinburgh. But one of the things that's absolutely noticeable about Scotland is that Scottish people are incredibly helpful, even if they don't have the wherewithal to be helpful. So if you ask a Scots person, where is X, Y, or Z, they will tell you, even when they don't know. So I have a theory that actually what's going on here is that this wild dolphin is trying to find out from the porpoises how to get back to dolphin land, and they keep on giving him the wrong instructions, is my theory. Apparently, it thinks it's a porpoise. I don't believe that. It thinks it's English, and it's trying to get out of the Clyde.
BBC News would have covered that very differently. Yeah. With facts
about...
Imagine that George Galloway would have covered it.
I think we've got time for one last story. Very quickly, Josh, theatre goers complaining about Shakespeare in a northern accent.
Yeah, so this is...
Have they heard Ian McKellen?
But this is a...
Well, you know when Ian McKellen was born? He's a Lancastrian.
Yes,
this is what's great. So, a Yorkshire theatre goer, he demanded his money back from a Shakespeare play because he said the actors had northern accents. Now, the person who demanded it back was from Yorkshire. The play was in Yorkshire. The company's from York. I mean, what did he... I don't understand what he
it's
wanted.
this peculiar idea, though, isn't it, that Shakespeare is high culture and therefore has talked...
Yeah, he doesn't want, how dare I hear my own voice reflected back
but no, you have to be posh to do Shakespeare, you know, whoever you are. I mean, it's a ludicrous... You also have to dress in Renaissance costume. You know, you have to do... I mean, there's a thing that people have, don't they? There's just...
OK, that is all we have time for. Thank you very much to my guests, Simon Fanshawe and Josh Howie. Thank you to you at home or wherever you are watching. Thank you very much. And Headliners will be back at the same time tomorrow with Simon Evans in the chair. And until then, from all of us here, we wish you a very good evening.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for...
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood, and every weekday we bring you The Briefing live from 9:30 a.m. The stories, analysis and live debate that you need to hear.
Quite right, Tom, of course.
Was this something that had been considered at all?
Difficult to answer.
Gas-guzzling helicopters circling. Noise is being made here. Joe Biden walking out. Thank you very much for joining us. Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, Monday to Friday, 9:30 a.m. on GB News.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
Basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for...
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.